Hey, thank you so much for tuning in once more. Have you ever considered leasing land in Kenya instead of buying? Maybe you haven't, but it's a viable option around land investments. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. You're watching Own Land in Kenya. I'm Solomon Wangwe. So why would you lease land? Many reasons for doing so. We ourselves have been going through this process because we've been thinking about getting into large-scale commercial farming. We have for quite a while. And unfortunately, land prices in many of the areas we would like to pursue this as just too expensive. They're too high. I mean, by the time you're buying enough space, whether it's 10 acres, 20 acres, 100 acres, whatever amount of space you're looking to use, by the price of an acre, it's going to be too expensive. And therefore, leasing becomes an option, right? And leasing is a great way to use the space without incurring the expenses of acquisition. And if you're good enough at negotiating your terms, you can secure the lease for a long enough period of time to have viable use of the space. So how does one go about doing that? It's very similar to leasing an apartment or an office space. Except in the case of land, because of due diligence issues, these are some of the things I recommend that you do as a standard procedure. Number one, never negotiate with anyone other than the landowner. This presupposes, of course, that you have confirmed who the landowner is by asking them for all the documents we have shared with you before that you should ask. A copy of the title deed, certified copies of the landowner's identity card and PIN certificate. If the landowner is married, whether to one or more spouses, you need all their documents as well, just as you do for the landowner. In some cases, when there are children over the age of 18 in certain communities more than others, I will also ask for theirs. Why? Because in many cases, especially when you're dealing with agricultural land, the family patriarchs tend to make long-term decisions around the property that affects their heirs. And if the heirs were not in agreement, that could land you in hot legal soup. So you want to make sure that all the affected parties are aware and consent to this arrangement, especially when you're looking at long-term engagements. And long-term for me is anywhere from 5 to 10 years when you're looking at land leases. Some land leases can go longer. It's simply a matter of negotiation. There is no stipulated timeframes, legally speaking. Again, it's a question of willing leaser and willing landowner. So you want to make sure you do your due diligence just as you would when you're buying the land. Why? Because one of the things we like to do, especially when you're making long-term land lease engagements, is to register your lease agreement. Again, in this case, I presuppose that you've watched all our videos on how to register documents. Whenever you do a sale agreement or a lease agreement, any kind of legal document, both parties have to sign, whether one or more. All parties have to sign. All signatures have to be witnessed by a licensed advocate, preferably a commissioner of oaths or commissioner for oaths. That's simply a notary public for those of you in the diaspora. And beyond that, you want that document registered with the Attorney General's chambers, meaning you have paid a stamp duty for that document to be recognized as a legally binding document in Kenya's legal system. The reason we do that is because in the event of a dispute between one or more parties and you end up in a court of law and that document was not registered with the Attorney General's chambers, it may not carry any weight in that court of law. So you always want to make sure that your documents are stamped, duly stamped at the AG chambers. Your lawyer or commissioner for oaths can handle that for you. It's a very simple process. There's a nominal fee for that. It's not more than 200 shillings in most cases. and it's a done deal. Now, once you have that, you take that document to the registry that has oversight over that piece of land, and you register that lease agreement against the title deed. It's kind of like placing a caution or a lien. In many cases, like banks do when you take a loan, you can register that lease agreement against the title deed for the property from which you are leasing the space. The reason you want to do that is to prevent anything from happening during the term of your lease that may sabotage your investments or your use of the land without your knowledge, right? Very important thing to do. A lot of people don't know that you can do this, and you can. Simply notify the landowner beforehand. Again, don't spring it up on them as a surprise because that doesn't augur well for your rapport building and necessarily good relationship with the landowner. You want to tell them from the onset that, listen, I need you to provide me all the documents I need to do a search. If you have a wife or more than one wife, I need them to give you consent, and in fact they will sign an affidavit giving consent for this. If there are children over the age of 18, if possible, have them do that as well. I like to go overboard. If there are neighbors immediately on either side or on one side of the property, have them come and witness the agreement as well, along with the chief and the sub-chief. Sounds like overkill, but if you're going to make some significant investments on the piece of land, whether you're going to farm or whatever, for a long period of time, these are very small steps to take to ensure your security and tenure of use while your lease is valid. So don't take any shortcuts. Take your time. If someone will not allow you to do what you need to have the peace of mind, disengage and find someone else who is. I hope that helps. If you have any questions about this, I recommend that you send your questions in. Feel free to reach out to licensed advocates of the High Court who specialize in conveyancing and the like, people who can help you structure these agreements properly, and you'll be in safe territory. Feel free to reach out to us through our social media platform. Give us a call, 07 0001 0001. Again, that's 07 0001 0001. You're watching Own Land in Kenya. I'm Solomon Wangwe. Stay tuned for more information on strategic land investment.